In support of Israel, New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft dropped a hefty $7 million bag for an ad entitled "Stop Jewish Hate" to air this Sunday during the upcoming Super Bowl. This year's Super Bowl performer is none other than an R&B legend with the highest-selling R&B album of the 21st century, Usher Raymond. Personal favorite of mine as well. Usher moved to Atlanta in the 90s to pursue a record deal. Ironically, coincidentally enough, in the last few months, local Atlanta residents, organizers, and surrounding communities have rallied together to stop Cop City. And a few days ago, a bill was passed by the state Senate that would criminalize charitable bail funds and expand the requirements for cash bail. So what do Robert Kraft, Israel, and Atlanta all have in common? My brothers and sisters in Christ, if you give me a few minutes to let me cook, I'm going to break this connection down a little bit further for you. What is good, GBO crew? It's your girl back with another video. It's been a while since I've done a video essay, but I wanted to try my hand with this one and with this topic in particular because I feel like the connection is not hard to make, and I'm sure some of you have already made it based on the intro alone. Any article that I reference or read from or any of my resources will be linked in the description box below so that you can do your own research. And before you ask, I'm not asking you to boycott the Super Bowl. I'm not asking you to cancel your Super Bowl party. Baby, if you already got that little fruit tray plate ordered, look, don't cancel it on my account. The whole point of this video is to give you guys some healthy criticism and for something to consider. With the ongoing genocide that Israel is carrying out over the Palestinian people, I feel like it's important for us as Americans and for us, a part of a capitalist society, to realize how just our viewership is revenue, and we don't always know the ways we intentionally or unintentionally contributing to harmful things. At the end of the day, we all in some way, shape, or form help the machine to make money. The machine being capitalism, the machine being the entertainment industry, the machine being the sports industry. We all contribute in some way. And I'm also hoping with this video will help people further understand how intersectionality within struggle works as well. So first, let's dive in a little deeper into Robert Kraft's connection to Israel. An article published by Dave Zirin in The Nation says, New England Patriots 81-year-old Robert Kraft writes 7-digit checks to the right-wing Israeli lobbying machine AIPAC, but his personal, political, and financial ties to Israel run deeper than the occasional donation. The multi-billionaire married his late wife Myra in Israel in 1963 when Kraft, then 22, was older than the nation itself. Together, they set up numerous business, athletic, and charitable ties to Israel, a record of which is proudly proclaimed on the Kraft Company website. In particular, the Kraft Group boasts of its Touchdown in Israel program, where NFL players are given free, highly organized vacations to see the Holy Land and come back to spread the word about the only democracy in the Middle East. Now, thankfully, not every NFL player has chosen to take part in these vacations, okay? His Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism, FCAS, will be spending an estimated $7 million to buy a Super Bowl ad titled "Stop Jewish Hate" that will be seen by well over 100 million people. Under Kraft's direction, the ad's goal is to create a propaganda campaign to counter the reports and images from Gaza that young people are consuming on social media. As Kraft said on CNN in December, 50% of what's being spread is lies and not accurate, and young people unfortunately are believing. Obviously, this ad is Robert Kraft's way of standing up against anti-Semitism. But as we learned and have seen in the past few months, that when it comes to anti-Semitism being used in mainstream media, especially by Western journalists, it is used as a weapon to stop people from criticizing Israel for the genocide they are committing against the Palestinian people.
It's horrible to me that a group like Hamas can be respected and people in the United States of America can be carrying flags or supporting them.
So in other words, anti-Semitism to Robert Kraft is us protesting in the streets. It is us posting on social media.
First of all, I think the role of social media in America today is horrible. To see the young people on campuses glorifying the actions of Hamas, which is creating atrocities. And you have young college kids standing up and praising that kind of grouping. Is just off. And we've realized they're getting a lot of false information, and it's coming from social media.
Anti-Semitism to Robert Kraft is me making the video I did back in October. I mean, you can just ask Mark Lamont Hill why he got fired from CNN a while back. The content of the Super Bowl ad is not yet known, but FCS has afforded Kraft the opportunity to make the rounds on cable news, saying things like, "It's horrible to me that a group like Hamas can be respected and people in the United States of America can be carrying flags and supporting them." Y'all, this man has the Palestinian flag mixed up with the Hamas flag. Mind you, I've never even seen a Hamas flag at a protest. Also, I didn't even know they had a flag until I Googled it for myself. See, this is what I'm talking about. Now, I do realize that this video requires you as a viewer to walk and chew gum at the same time. So if you don't have at least a general knowledge or basis of what has been going on in Palestine or happening in Gaza and the West Bank, maybe you need to come back to this video after you've done some more research. However, I can give you some book recommendations to get you started. The first book I would advise you to read is Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Davis, a fairly short book, and Palestine, A Socialist Introduction. Let's dive a little bit deeper into how I made the connection between Usher and Atlanta and Israel. Like I mentioned earlier, Usher moved to Atlanta in the 90s to obviously pursue a music career, and it worked out great for him. Okay, he's the GOAT, he's the legend, you know what I'm saying? Usher has officially started the rollout for his upcoming album Coming Home, and in the pictures you can see him holding a peach, which we all know is supposed to represent a Georgia peach. So I was able to make this connection because when I think of Usher, I think of how he reps Atlanta, and when I think of Atlanta, I cannot help but think of StopCopCity.
$90 million police training complex known as Cop City. On Monday, police attacked peaceful protesters with tear gas, pepper balls, flashbang grenades as over 400 marched toward the sacred Weaponization Forest, the proposed site for Cop City.
I'm also going to link two websites where you can get a more in-depth overview of what StopCopCity entails. But essentially, local residents in Atlanta see the harm in a new cop training facility being built. The construction of Cop City would diminish acres and acres upon forest land, and also it would increase policing in Black and brown communities. And obviously, as we've seen with 2020, and as we've seen throughout history, over-policing of Black and brown communities is not a good thing. Once again, there will be links in the description box to give you further detail on what the Stop Cop City campaign fully entails and what local residents are doing to stop the construction of this new cop training facility. Now it's time to make the connection between the Atlanta Police Department and Israel. With whom are many U.S. police departments training? With a chronic human rights violator, Israel. When the U.S. Department of Justice published a report on August 10th that documented widespread constitutional violations, discriminatory enforcement, and culture of retaliation within the Baltimore Police Department, BPD, there was rightly a general reaction of outrage. But what hasn't received as much attention is where Baltimore police received training on crowd control, use of force, and surveillance. Israel's National Police, Military, and Intelligence Services. Baltimore law enforcement officials, along with hundreds of others from Florida, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, California, Arizona, Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, Georgia, Washington State, thousands of others have received training from Israel officials here in the U.S. Amnesty International, other human rights organizations, and even the U.S. Department of State have cited Israeli police for carrying out extrajudicial executions and other unlawful killings, using ill treatment and torture, even against children, suppression of freedom of expression, association, including through government surveillance. For years, Amnesty International has found Israeli military, security, and police forces responsible for the same behavior. Now, do y'all understand just a little bit better why residents in Georgia are against the construction of Cop City? The point I'm trying to make here, just to say it more plainly to y'all, is that there has been an exchange of violence tactics between the U.S. and Israel for many, many years. And how long has this exchange of violence been a thing? How the U.S. and Israel exchange tactics and violence and control. 2 decades of Israeli-U.S. police cooperation includes training in racial profiling and violent suppression of protests. Following the killing of George Floyd, as U.S. riot police fired rubber-coated bullets, tear gas canisters, pepper spray, and stun grenades at protesters, Palestinians shared tips on social media on how to best deal with the assaults. Many in the Palestinian territories are well experienced with such tactics by security forces while living under a decades-long occupation by Israeli forces in the occupied West Bank and besieged Gaza Strip. According to the organization's Jewish Voice for Peace, JVP, and researching the American-Israeli alliance, one common theme shared between the United States and Israel is the exchange of tactics and expertise in state violence, which has been ongoing for 18 years. Months after the September 11 attacks, U.S. law enforcement delegates attended their first official training expedition to Israel to exchange best practices and counter terrorism. Since then, thousands more from across the U.S., including agents from the FBI, CIA, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, have been schooled at these meetings in both Israel and the U.S., sponsored by far-right Israeli lobby organizations. So I really want to let most of my resources do the talking because they provide the information in a more concise way, and essentially reading it to you for the most part, but I feel like by doing that, I'm giving you verified resources, and you guys also know I'm not just pulling anything out of the air. I also want you guys to understand a little bit more why the bill that the state Senate passed, that Georgia State Senate just passed, is a danger to protesters, but everywhere else as well if other states also choose to follow suit with criminalizing charitable bail funds. You will also hear plenty of stories about how people stayed in jail because they could not afford to put up bail. With this bill also considering ways to expand the requirements for cash bail, it is going to make bail affordable for only a small group of people. So that means someone like me that attends a protest, whether it be locally or travel to one, even if it's a small one, if I happen to be arrested, and child, I'm not rich, I more than likely am going to have to just stay in jail because I can't afford to make bail. And also, I hope by reading some of those articles to you guys, especially in regards to the exchange of violence between the US and Israel, you will further see how it's more than just about violence. It's also about suppression and like further oppressing people in marginalized communities. Marginalized communities such as Black and brown people, trans people. What I also find interesting about the exchange of violence between the US and Israel is the tactic of when it comes to suppression. However, a super wealthy man like Robert Kraft can air an ad called Stop Jewish Hate, and he's not going to be suppressed for it because he has the means and the funds to pay for propaganda to be put on a platform as big as the Super Bowl. So do y'all understand why I have some concerns about this ad being aired to millions of people on Super Bowl night? We live in a country where Western journalism is completely dismissive of anything that does not serve imperialistic or capitalistic powers. So when it comes to understanding the Palestinian struggle, it is important for us to understand that we cannot rely on Western media and journalism to do that for us. Most of the information that I get and people on social media get and in certain spaces get is from journalists on the ground in Gaza reporting to you live so you can see what is happening to them. The news outlets here in America are not going to show you that. They are not going to show you what your tax dollars are funding. I really hope I've done a well enough job of making this connection for you guys. I feel like it's pretty plain and simple, but even if somebody still feels like what is happening in Palestine has nothing to do with you, or what is happening in Congo, or what is happening in Sudan, or what is happening in Tigray has nothing to do with you, it's important to understand that you contribute to the machine, the capitalistic machine, in some way, shape, or form, whether you know it or not. And yes, that sometimes can be as simple as watching an ad during the Super Bowl. So even though I'm sure this was quite a bit of information to intake, I hope it will prompt you to do your own research as well on what is going on, and also in general how you as a consumer hold a lot of power. My main point for this video is just to give you something to consider. It is not me telling you not to watch the Super Bowl, to not participate in all the things, but I just want us to be more conscious of what we consume and also who it is benefiting and who in the process we might be dismissing. When it comes to history, there are always two sides to it, and rarely ever does history rely on the voices of the oppressed. So as we continue to bear witness to the genocide happening to the Palestinian people, as we continue to keep eyes on Sudan, as we continue to educate ourselves on what is happening in the Congo, as we continue to amplify the voices of oppressed people across the world who in some way, shape, or form we are connected to because we are connected through our struggles. That's how intersectionality works. I really hope we will become more conscious of the things we consume. So with this upcoming Super Bowl and the halftime show, I hope we will continue to keep the Palestinian people in our hearts. And when we hear this famous line, "Peace up, A-Town down," we will think of local residents and our brothers and sisters in Atlanta, Georgia that are rallying to StopCopCity. If you would like more information on where the construction of StopCopCity stands, there will be resources linked in the description box along with all the other articles that I referenced in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please be sure to hit that like button and be sure to subscribe. Whatever you do, don't forget to click that bell so that you get notified every single time that I post. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time with another video.
Tell them what you want to, but you know the truth just like I do. Want to hurt like it owns you. You wanna make me the bad guy.